Hey, how you doing? This is John, and I'm gigantic. This is it's clobbering time, and Marcus won't be here tonight. His son is graduating veterinary school, so he's with his son. So I'm here, and I don't like being the only one. So please, somebody join us, and let's talk about pitching stories to Marvel and DC Comics. It's clobbering time, Friday night, 8:30. The show with an inconsistent start time because I'm working so much, so much overtime. I would work at 5 hour days overtime, so we're working 12-hour days. Jeez, yes, a regular construction is 7 hour days. Sup, amigos? How you doing, Lord Vinzinzer? How you doing? We'll do the bookkeeping first. So, geez, I look awful gigantic. No wonder I keep my face small. So, Heroic Tales 2 is still available on Fund My Comic for the time being. I don't know exactly how long that will be. I got two things going on at Fund My Comics right now. I'm creating a storefront, meaning everything that I have will be available in the store except the current campaign. The current campaign is nothing right now, but in, I don't know, real soon, let's say real soon, maybe a week, I will be launching the campaign for Heroic Tales, the Christmas special. Heroic Tales, the Christmas special, will have 16 pages of Blue Christmas, a King Fu story, and you flip it over, and it will have a 6-page Christmas magic story about the patriarch and his family, how they celebrate Christmas. So it's a short 22-page plus a letter page. We'll get that out, and we will have it in your hands by Christmas. It's purposely a small comic, so it won't take that long. And we'll launch the campaign. I think it's going to go 2 months exclusively on Fund My Comic, and then when that's done, I'll do it for 2 months on Kickstarter, and then start sending it out. Start sending it out to people. As of this moment, Renzo is 60% done with the art. Andres is 25% done with the art, but it's only 6 pages, and it's good. It's good. So anyway, again, please somebody join me. I just hate being the only one on camera. Usually I have a picture of comics or something like that, but like I said, Marcus is away, and let's hope Tony shows up. Lord Vinzinger Sama is my DC pitch, a final retcon universe that would battle shonen seinen manga style retcon universe. What, like you take the Golden Age versus the Silver Age versus the Bronze Age versus the New 52, all that stuff, and then whatever you'd call it today, they all battle it out for supremacy. That's kind of funny. Who would win in your mind? Who would win? So I don't know what to say. I want to filibuster for a minute or two before people show up. Let's see if I got anything to show. Yeah, I'll show some art while we're waiting for people. That's always fun. So just loading up program. There we go. So I don't want to spoil the add-on yet, but no, I don't want to spoil that page. Okay, so this is the, come on, this is the cover. I'll make it big. For the Christmas magic story, I'll make it big. So we got the patriarch, we got Santa Claus, we got the reindeer. I mean, they're flying over Science City. You know, it's Arizona, so it's real South Arizona, so it doesn't really get snowy or anything like that down there. If you ever, it's near Yuma, Arizona, so you know, it doesn't get a white Christmas down there, but you still get Santa. And note that Santa Claus is not in red. Why? Because the traditional Santa Claus is not in red. That was created in like 1919, and I'm trying to go with a more historical version of Santa Claus. So there were some touches to this art after. This is not the final, but this is the first one that popped up. I love this. And this is by Andre Esparza. He's a student of Oscar's, and Oscar showed me his portfolio. I was like, we got to get this guy to work. So he's working on this, and as soon as he's done, I'm going to give him the metaphysician. He's my Doctor Strangey types. He's my superhero that deals with the occult and magic, and that's such a fun story. That story was just a burst of inspiration that I could not get out of my head. I haven't been writing much lately. I've just been working so much. And if I get sleepy, I really don't want to write. Writing becomes a chore rather than a joy. So I like to be fully fresh and bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and then it's just a fun thing that I do. But with working these long hours, it's, I'm like, oh, man, I don't want it to be a chore. Then I'll stop doing it. I know me. But that story, I just was like, oh, my God, I got to get this out of my head. I just got an idea for an inspiration, and literally wrote it, sent it out for everybody to proofread it, and then fixed it up. So good. More, I would like marry Golden, Silver Age, Bronze into each other, and manga-style storytelling while I read the some DC story. That's the problem with DC, though, is every couple of years they reboot and they try to they cherry pick all the stuff that they like from the previous generation and put them together. And rather than just go with something like, you want to reboot. Commit to the bit. Reboot. Start all over again. And I know they want to use Firestorm and Superman and Batman. That's fine. But just start all over again. Don't revisit the past. Don't, we got to tell our Bottle City of Candor story. We got to, just start all over again. Start all over again. I guess people could argue but that's what they're doing with Ultimate Batman or Absolute Batman. But I mean, there has to be certain through lines. Oh, I just realized. There has to be certain through lines or it's not Batman, right? So, I don't know. I'm saying make new stories, not reimagine the characters. Batman as a trench coat wearing detective is not Batman, nor is Batman a poor guy carny for the carnival who carries a battle axe. That's not Batman. But what do I know? It seems to be selling, which is also good because I want comic book stores to actually have stuff to sell. But with Superman story ending with the redacted arc Death of Superman storyline, with Superman coming back to life to fight Vindicator. Who Vindicator from Guardians of the Galaxy? I mean, from Alpha Flight. So I'll wait a couple more minutes and I'll tell my pitches. And if nobody else shows up, it'll just be me solo. Is there anything else I could show? That's not here, but yeah, I'd love to show more. I don't really have any more art to show, and the dead air is just going to kill people. So, any questions? Oh, I'll show this. I mean, I think at this point everybody has seen it. This is the undressed cover for the King Fu Christmas special, Blue Christmas. What's going on? We got King Fu, we got Agent Welsh, not Agent Welsh, Lieutenant Welsh. We got these red hooded freaks, and then we got these bluish purple hand. What is going on? Well, you'll find out in December. You'll find out in December. And I already know with the criticism of me, what does this story have to do with Christmas? It happens on Christmas. It's like Die Hard, right? Die Hard happens on Christmas, So, good evening, Ben Sabar, voice actor. How you doing? Good to see you. You're always here. Thank you. Thank you for that. While Batman's story would end with the death of Jason Todd as Robin, not Red Hood. Okay. And again, if anybody wants to pop in, I'll star this, so there'll be a starred comment. Here's the link to join in. I figured out how to stream on Rumble, so we're also live on Rumble. There you go. Click this and come in and save me from myself. I always get a little self-conscious when it's just me. You know, I started this channel to talk with other people, so I would love if other people actually came in and talked to me. That's why I'm so glad that Marcus comes every week and Tony comes every week. So, I thought somebody came in, but no, nobody. It was just a fluctuation in the flux capacitor. Okay, so I got nothing else to talk about, so I might as well get right into it. So, welcome to It's Clobbering Time, where we just take comic book stories. It kind of the premise of the show has kind of drifted past its original premise, which was just characters battling each other. I still like that, and if you have any ideas to get back to characters battling each other, put them in the chat. I kind of shy away from manga because I don't really know manga, but you know, if other people promise to show up, we'll talk about it, and I'll just be the moderator. But anyway, tonight's episode is what you are given an opportunity to pitch your storylines to Marvel or DC or Image or whatever. It being other people's IPs, and you're going to pitch them. I mean, obviously, your own stuff, you can do whatever you want, so you don't need to pitch that. But you go to Image, you go into Marvel, you go into DC, you go on Dark Horse, and you're gonna pitch your ideas. What are your ideas? What would you do? So I guess I'm going first. I've talked about this. It's no surprise. I kind of gave it away many times if you watch my channel. But my pitch would be X-Men. Okay, so you're gonna write the X-Men. Well, Mr. Longbox, what are you gonna do? Well, X-Men's a horror comic. It's about mutants. It's about people giving birth to children that are different than them. Now, I know the current crop of Marvel writers are a bunch of childless weirdos, myself included. I'm a childless weirdo, but I actually have friends and family that have kids, and one of the things that goes through their head during pregnancy is this baby going to be all right? Is this baby going to be normal? Now, let's be realistic. In a real world with real mutants, they would abort a lot of these mutants. Your kid's going to be a mutant. You know what I mean? But again, these are left-wing crazy people that are running Marvel, so like they only want to abort kids if they know they're going to be cis white heterosexual men. But you know, they celebrate everything weird and everything's great, but they don't understand that fear of a kid that is different, that is fundamentally different than them, that they can't understand. That's terror. So I think the X-Men would work best, or at least for a little while, because you know they always go back to status quo, is that mutants are feared and scared, but we just tell us that. Marvel has just told us that for 30 years, that we are scared of mutants, but we never actually saw the day-to-day of being scared of mutants. That's what I would introduce. So a lot of the extra mutants would just leave, you know, whatever. So we get a small team of mutants, and we start seeing parents like terrified, and then their kids are born. Like in the real world, we keep hearing about I haven't heard about it in a long time. But when I was a kid, spontaneous human combustion was a thing. Like we were like, you know, aware of it. It was like jokes in Saturday Night Live. It was jokes, and then it was like In Search of and spontaneous human combustion, Bermuda Triangles. It was all of that weird paranormal stuff. What if those were mutants? What if a kid's powers activated? He got horny for the first time and his hormones triggered and he just burnt down his house. Like Liz from Hellboy, she burnt down her house and everything like that. She was a mutant. What? Okay, you shoot laser beams from your eyes. What if your doctor slaps you and you have sonic scream and you kill everybody in the room, and then the doctor drops the baby and the baby dies? You know, I hate to be dark, but this is what logical results of mutants. What if you're born with gills and you suffocate before the doctors even feel like these parents would be devastated. So hearing the news that your child is a mutant would be just devastating. And then like your mutant powers, you spread diseases by touch, or every time you breathe out, people get sick and ill. They don't want you around. So these kids have high suicide rates, and just you don't want your kids to be mutants. And then of course you're gonna have like Antifa mutant kind of people, like, don't tell us what to do. We were born this way, and as they have acid skin and they demand to go into the regular schools, burning the other kids. Like, you can't even go to school with a peanut butter sandwich now because kids have nut allergies. But like, activists want their lava skinned child to sit next to other kids in school, even though they could kill. You know what I mean? That's going to happen. So that's what I would focus on for X-Men. Horror. People don't want to be mutants. I always thought it was insane in the first X-Men movie when they found out. Was it the first X-Men movie or the second X-Men movie when they had the cure for mutants and Rogue jumps at it and Storm goes, "You don't need that." It's like, Storm, you got a cool power. You're a weather goddess. Rogue can't even kiss her boyfriend. You know what I mean? Would she kill her own baby? Giving birth to the baby? If she even got that far, you know what I mean? I'm sure plenty of mutants would give up so much to get rid of their horrid mutations. And most mutants would be deformed and horrible and have worthless powers. And their abilities would be a hindrance. What if you had the mutant ability to just everybody hates you? You know what I mean? Wouldn't you want to get rid of that power? That's what I would do with the X-Men. What do you guys think? That's my X-Men pitch. And I will go back to the chat. Let's see. Vincenzo seems to be saying a lot of things. To be clear, I only marry Golden Age, Silver, Bronze to respect the Golden comic book fandom. That's fine. I apologize for using it. No. Don't apologize. Never apologize. I've seen too much disrespect. Absolutely. I agree with you, and thank you for being courteous, but you're not doing anything disrespectful. Not at all. You're participating. I think I know the perfect leaders for the mutant Antifa. Magneto, Emma Frost, Apocalypse, Sebastian Shaw. Yeah. All the bad mutants. Hey, Tony, how you doing?
Hey, John, what's up?
And Lord Vincenzo said I have a good pitch. Did you hear my X-Men pitch?
I did, and it sounded very well. By the way, I'm just coming off of a cold, so
okay.
If my voice is a little funny, please forgive me.
Does your face hurt?
No, why?
It's killing me. Oldest joke in the book, and I still love that joke. Why? Because I'm a child at heart, and that's why we still are into comics. But what do you think? We'll riff off of my idea for a little bit, then we'll go into your idea, and we'll riff off of that. And first off, thank you for showing up, Tony. Marcus won't be here. His kid is graduating veterinary school, so congratulations to Marcus's kid.
Congratulations, Marcus.
Save the kitties. Save the kitties and puppies. A noble cause. So what do you think of that? Like, I don't know. I never asked you. Are you a father?
No, not as far as I know.
But would you want a mutant kid?
Well, depends. If we're talking like the way you set it out, it would be kind of a crazy, kind of a creepy way of doing it, because you don't know. It could be every birth could be a potential disaster. Yeah, right. You could get super strength. You could have the ability to, control the weather. You could be like a dude that touches things and they melt, or you could be like, it could be. I don't think I would. No, not really.
Did you ever read one of my favorite comics of all time? Is Ghost Rider 34, 35, and 36, the original run, and it's about a kid with mutant powers, but he was born in like I don't know, like the 1800s or something like that. They're in cowboy towns, so they thought he was a witch child, and he had like supreme mental and telekinetic abilities, and he was just a bully who controlled his parents. His father lived in terror of him. The mother died.
There you go.
He animated her corpse to just walk around because the kid wanted his mother. It is terrifying comic. And every time I reread this, and he's a mutant. He says it. He goes, I didn't know what it was until the X-Men showed up, and he used his abilities to block Xavier from ever finding him. That's because at that point he's 100 years old. You know what I mean? But he controls his metabolism, so he's still like a boy, and he prevents his mother from decaying, but she's still this emaciated skeleton. It's absolutely and Ghost Rider, like Johnny Blaze, is just like, come on, and he turns into Ghost Rider and just burns everybody to death. It was horrible. That's the way you're gonna tell me a 4-year-old kid with laser powers isn't gonna be murdering kids in the playground when he doesn't get to the top.
I understand the whole Stan Lee thing of, the mutants are meant to represent the minority, the oppressed minority. But like for me, I always understood Reverend Stryker. I always understood Great on Creed in terms of, yes, would you be at ease knowing that there's a group of people that could go into a bank vault and take out all the money, or kill you with a thought, or
Right.
burn your house down with a thought? That it is a creepy kind of a. I mean, it's one of the X-Men. It's one of those concepts that easily fall apart if you start looking at it too much.
Right.
But,
As as a metaphor for the the outcast, they're great, and and it's perfect because I don't care who you are, you think you're the outcast. Unless you're that rare individual that is just totally well adjusted, captain of the football team kind of guy. There's always one or two guys in school, but then again, you don't know them in their private moments either. But everybody feels like I identified with the X-Men. I was a freaky weirdo kid who liked comic books. I mean, the X-Men were me, freaky weirdo kids who like comic books. Saying that they're the LGBTQ, it's just stupid because that defines them as that, and then so they're not me anymore. You know what I mean? But I want to go into like, your kid's born and he looks like Nightcrawler. You're gonna tell me this is the Antichrist. You know what I mean? Your kid's born and he transforms into a blob. How many 5-year-olds accidentally kill their parents because of their powers are developing? Like, what if a kid, he develops arsenic skin, or something like that? I think X-Men would be a tremendous horror comic, but a superhero comic, but expanded logically. There is because we've been told, we hate mutants, but we like Captain America. We hate mutants, but we like the Human Torch and the Thing. Well, mostly because the Human Torch and the Thing, their behavior is a lot better. They don't just disregard the law and everything like that. But the thing is, it's funny. He was born a human. He was born a normal human. That's not scary. And then he was transformed by some sort of cosmic accident that turned into the Thing. Whereas Colossus, he could have just as easily transformed into a nuclear bomb and taken out Siberia. You know what I mean? Like that Tuskegee explosion in 1908. What if that was a mutant? Things like that. I just think it would be terrifying, and I would also just love to see but the X-Men are me, finally realizing, oh yeah, they're not me, because even though I'm gay, I'm still not a danger to society, or am I? But there you go.
Well, the whole concept of nature versus nurture, the fact that why didn't Superman turn into Homelander or Omni-Man? It's because of the Kents.
Right.
So I think that concept goes back all the way to 38. But I think a lot of it is, I mean, if these mutants were brought up in a relatively stable environment with morals, yeah, they would turn out to be pretty nice people. I mean, look at Nightcrawler, but at the same time, you look at Victor Creed, Sabretooth. His dad beat the crap out of him every day, and it kept him chained like an animal, into the barn, and no wonder he turned out the way he did. So it's just that sort of adds to that potential of, will they be good? Will they be bad?
And I'd hate to say it, but like one of the main villains of this story would be like a Jeffrey Epstein type guy. And I know that's like supposed to be the Hellfire Club, but basically, whenever a pregnant woman goes in for a checkup, they take a blood test. They want to know, is the baby okay? And then they're like, oh yeah, the baby's fine. Meanwhile, this group gets alerted. We got a mutant over here. And next thing you know, during birth, the baby's born stillborn, and now they steal these infant mutants, and now there's just like a mutant army that's
Sounds
just
like Mr. Sinister. Remember, he was an OBGYN. Remember?
he was, yeah. All right, so I didn't think of it. All right, but maybe just use Mr. Sinister as that, just raising mutant. Or as horrible as this sounds, is like Colossus's mother. Colossus calls up his mother, where's mom? And the father's like, don't know. She just was gone. And you find out. Or maybe Colossus's father, you don't know. But one of them is the one that has the mutant gene, because there's 2 mutants in the family, right?
No, there's 3.
Oh, even more.
You remember Mikhail Rasputin?
That's right. I forgot about him. Right. So there's something, either the mother or the father, or both of them. Maybe they both have the mutant resistant gene. So what do? They get captured by Mr. Sinister, and now they're basically dissected and all the ovaries are taken out. So now you got 30,000 potential mutants. You know what I mean?
I remember.
And they harvest the father, and use him to fertilize 30,000 mutant. It would be a horror comic.
Well, it kind of was. Remember in the late 80s when Mr. Sinister was introduced, Scott Summers went back and he began to research the orphanage that he was brought up in. And it was revealed that Sinister was the head of that orphanage, the doctor of that orphanage. He used to experiment on him, and he's the one that put that post-hypnotic suggestion in Colossus. I forgot what it was. He was just messing with his mind so he couldn't achieve the peak power. Remember, because his blast was the only thing that could kill him, or something like that. Yeah. It's been a while since I've read. That was that run that was the Mark Silvestri run.
Is Sinister a telepath?
I don't know what the hell he is. He's a shape changer. I think he can read minds. He's nigh invulnerable. I mean, they never really explained. He was something biomechanical.
Does anybody watching this know the power of the exact is because if Mr. Sinister's a telepath, that just furthers my fan theory that Cyclops has been messed with by telepaths his entire life.
Yeah, all his life. That poor man. No wonder he turned out as screwed up as he was.
Yep. Like, did he ever have a real thought that was his own? He just got handed off from telepath to telepath to telepath. That would be another one of my stories, is Cyclops leaves and then just has superhero adventures back in Alaska, flying an airplane and whatever. And then finally comes to the conclusion that, like, my mind, what's my thoughts? If Sinister was the owner of the orphanage and a telepath also, so that's just further proof. Yeah, I don't really know other Mr. Sinister's powers other than he is super strong, right? He can go punch for punch with like Colossus and stuff, I think, but he's also like a Sinister doctor. So
he's a shape changer. He's able to assume different identities. I'm
going to ask Grok. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking Grok. What is Mr. Sinister's, the villain from the X-Men's, powers?
Mr. Sinister's main power. Anytime.
Could you repeat that? You cut out.
Mr. Sinister's main powers are superhuman strength, speed, and durability, plus telepathy and telekinesis. But his real edge comes from genetic manipulation. He can rewrite DNA on the fly, create clones, and turn people into his twisted experiments. He also doesn't really age and can heal from almost anything.
There you go. Telepath. There you go. That's my first arc. Cyclops realizes he's been manipulated from day one. Yep. All right. That's my pitch. Tony, what do you got? I know you got something good. Oh, and Tony, you didn't activate Twitter. I've been trying to contact you.
Oh, yeah, I got it. I'm sorry. I've been sick the last few days. So yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it tomorrow.
You got to eat more green chili. Every time I lived in New Mexico and I got sick, people told me eat more green chili.
Well, it's good for a hangover. That's for sure. Menudo with some green chili in it never fails. My pitch would be a little bit different. Okay. In pre-crisis DC continuity, you had basically the age of the superhero began from 38 till about the current day of the crisis, which was like 86, 87. Then you had a point in the timeline where everything was static. Nothing was really covered. And then 500 years later, you had the Legion of Superheroes, right? So my pitch would be the generation of superheroes in between the modern times and the Legion. I would establish the different dynasties of superheroes, how they're connected to the old guard, create an entire new roster of superheroes, top to bottom. I could come up with those really easy. The new Central Superman character, the new Justice League lineup, or whatever, or maybe even a new team altogether, a new name for the team, and just sort of fill in the gaps from the end of the original superhero dynasty all the way to the Legion of Superheroes.
Okay. Okay.
But to do that, I would want to have the sweetheart, one of DC sweetheart deals. That way I'd own a piece or a tiny little piece of all of my.
Yeah, DC is weird
ideas.
like that, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, DC gives some people partial. Like, how did Neil Gaiman own the Sandman when he didn't even? They came to him and said, "You want to bring back the Sandman?"
Yeah, no, the way I heard him say it, he wanted to do a story he was approached by Karen Berger to do a story. And he basically said, yeah, I want to do the Sandman. And she's like, okay. And she thought she meant the Wesley Dodds Sandman, but no, it was a completely different thing.
Yeah. And now, I wonder if they're happy that they gave him the deal, because now let's just say Neil hasn't been having a good time legally in the past couple of years.
My older brother, ran in some of his circles, and I knew what that man was like years before. That's why whenever people were going to me going, can you believe what happened? I'm like, dude, that was like the biggest open secret in comics. That was like Harvey Weinstein in comics. Everyone knew, nobody said anything.
I didn't. To tell you the truth, I mean, I love the Sandman. I'm not going to lie and say that I hated it now or whatever. I love the Sandman. I mean, you can see right over here, I got the Death Ankh, from the Sandman, and I got the Key to Hell. I think somewhere you might be able to see it, So I'm not going to lie and say oh no, I hate it. I like the comics. It was a great comic. Neil is a creep, but when he married that woman,
Amanda Palmer.
Yeah, when he married Amanda Palmer, that was when I said, this guy isn't what he seems to be. And I didn't expect it to be this bad. I didn't expect it to be this bad, but I got my first creep out by him.
Well,
was there anything Epstein or Weinstein about Neil Gaiman? Supposedly, don't sue me, he would hire assistants and sexually assault them. Like, not just like, listen, put out and I'll give you a job, like attack them, leave them in the hospital kind of thing. That's what I heard. Don't know if it's true. And they're accusations, but but Amanda Palmer, right? Is that her name?
Yeah, she was the lead singer of a band called the Dresden Dolls.
Right. They would tour and go to town, and then she would put out like a local music. You always see them, like those free local magazines. Albuquerque had one. What's it called? Do you remember? Is it still even around? No, it was there when I lived there. But it was a free magazine. It was cool because it told you where all the bands were playing and stuff like that. And like the Dresden Dolls, you want to play with the Dresden Dolls, and people would show up. They would rehearse for a day or two and play a concert, and then she would just not pay them. And like, oh no, you got paid in exposure. Meanwhile, as she's collected all the money from the door, she was just a piece of crap. And then supposedly Neil Gaiman's parents were the leaders of Scientology in England.
Yes, they were. And that's a whole big can of worms. I looked into it, and it's a rabbit hole. It's a definite rabbit hole. It's interesting. Very interesting.
So whatever, so all of that American Gods money and stuff like that was helping Scientology in England. So he was like the Pope of Scientology in England.
Yep.
There you go. Oh, I skipped a couple of comments. Interesting. It makes me curious if Mr. Sinister's abilities could help him. Yeah, just imagine how powerful as a So Tony Grigo comes up to me, and I'm Mr. Sinister. I use telepathy. I get an image of his mom, and I shapeshifted to his mom, and I'm flawless because I know what Tony would expect me to. You know what I mean? That is super powerful. A telepathic shapeshifter. Oh my God, you could get away with any crime. I see Charles Xavier and Emma Frost use the telepathy to create illusions, stop people from moving and cloak themselves. Yeah. Which to me are all different powers, but whatever. I can admit I'm still silent about Neil Gaiman's situation because I don't know about it. Well, that's the best thing to do. That's the best thing to do. And again, these are all allegations. Don't use this video as proof. I don't know if it's true. I wasn't there. All I get to say is that Neil really ticked me off when he said on Twitter that if you're making a Batman movie, the fans want to see Batman. They don't want to see a guy with the yellow trench coat with a pet bat solving crimes. They're called fans, which is short for fanatics, for a reason. And you have to respect that. Great quote. I use that quote a lot of times. So then when I saw the Sandman TV show coming out, I said, Neil, how come the actress playing Death is an African-American or British woman? I don't know if she's American, a black girl. Let's say black girl. African-American assumes that all black people are American. We're going to say a black person. And he immediately called me a racist. I said, Neil, knock it off. I said, you know what I'm saying? And I quoted his quote back to him. I said, you created these characters. You created the Seven Endless. And the Seven Endless are dichotomies. They're opposites. They're total black. They're total white. Not Caucasian, not Negroid, dark. Absence of light, then pure white. I said, they're not humans. They have black pupils. And life and death, they're the same character. Dreams and reality are the same character. Design and destruction are the same character. They're opposites. They're not supposed to be human. And he goes, well, she was the best actress to audition. I said, fine. Put her in alabaster white makeup. You know, what's her name? Zoe Saldana is not a green woman. Or is it racist to put makeup on a black person? I said, you know what you're doing. You caving into Netflix demands, and you're compromising your vision. And he blocked me. So, bye, Neil. But anyway, this has nothing to do with anything. I don't even know how we ended up with about Neil Gaiman. I don't know. But anyway, you were pitching. You want to fill in the gap. Oh, yeah, sweetheart deals. Sweetheart deals, yes.
And I wanted to, there's a couple of things I wanted to include. I wanted to somehow rig in Jack Kirby's Commandy. Remember they had the Great Cataclysm there?
Right.
I'd like to sort of write about that and have their own version of the Justice League, their own few superheroes that are there, just to see if I could string. In other words, I want to fix what Marv Wolfman ripped apart. I want to try to make it unified and try to create a central narrative with all new characters. Because if I'm going to do this, I want to try something new. You know.
So is the world of OMAC then right before the Great Cataclysm? Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Because to me, that it's the way it has to be. Mm-hmm. Something in OMAC triggered the Great Cataclysm. OMAC is probably, well, not my favorite, but it's. I think it's my favorite of the DC Jack Kirby's. That is Jack Kirby, almost prophetic in his ability to predict the future. Yeah, it is outstanding. And Commandy is my least favorite Kirby of all Kirby stuff because the premise is, what if all these people ate animal people, and Commandy himself, he has no purpose. There's no character of Commandy. He's just a guy who just reacts to the world, and he's walking for the sake of showing off Kirby's world. That to me is an example of world building rather than a character.
Well, essentially, it was Jack Kirby trying to play around with Planet of the Apes.
Right.
And it was fine. You know, you had tiger people and bear people and, you know, gorilla people. It was even with Kirby, even his least shining ideas were always entertaining to me.
Yeah, I tell you, man, I think it was issue 7. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. With Flower, he introduces Flower in issue 6, and then issue 7, I'm like, oh, Jack, you broke my heart.
Yeah, but I'd like to do that. I'd like to create some new characters. I'd like to get some new concepts up and running. Maybe find a way to. I mean, it would have to be done right. You couldn't rush it. You couldn't blunder into it. You'd have to really, really work at it, just so it could maybe attract some new readership. Maybe get some new people in there, but it
would all lead into the Legion of Superheroes.
Yeah. It would. That would be the end game. The LSH. Because that's it. That's like That's the far future. Mankind is living in a federation of planets.
I think that would be great, because one of the things that always bothered me about the Legion of Superheroes is I forget, is it 500 or 1,000 years in the future?
500. 500 to 1,000.
It's not long enough for people to evolve those powers on all those planets. You know what I mean? Like, so that would be great, that the Great Cataclysm, somehow that's the reason why these people have these different powers. And, you know, that would be a good way to tie it all together. You know, for people don't know, like the people of the planet Bismol have the ability to eat anything, and then it converts into energy. So Matter Eater Lad could eat a rock, and then that rock would turn into energy, and he could either get like super strong or do like a blast or something like that.
But I would have to be careful how I do it, because there's a pet peeve of mine in science fiction, like Enterprise. Enterprise is supposed to be the prequel to the original Star Trek series,
Right.
but it's too polished. There's too many inconsistencies for it to truly fit together into that universe. It's almost like it could exist, but it doesn't really. It's like it doesn't fit together as they would want. So the closer I would get to the LSH, the more I would have to pull back and get a little bit more simplistic with the concepts, a little bit more simplistic with the storylines. That way it starts to sort of gel smoother into Otto Binder, Kurt Swan, Jim Shooter, you know, Jerry Siegel.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. The Legion of Superhero, like, it's so charming, the original run, but you know, the whole these different planets, everybody on the planet has the powers of Element Lad. It's like they're the most powerful people in the world. They could transmute any matter. Like, they should be like gods, and like that, not ruling the empire, but like, you know what I mean? Like, people should be like, we get whatever planet, I forget the name of the planet, but we should have them on every planet to solve all our problems.
I have the same problem with Marvel, the Molecule Man. Owen Reese is the most powerful individual ever in Marvel Comics. The most powerful than Thanos, Galactus, anybody. Owen Reese, that dorky guy with the stars on his face that look like lightning bolts, because that guy is essentially God. Anything he wants, anything, he makes it right there. And nobody's been able to write that character with the damn. I don't know if you'd agree with me on that one.
I really like the Molecule Man, but the people that write, this is so arrogant to say, only I understand how his powers work, but it's so arrogant to say. He controls matter. He doesn't control spirit. He doesn't control mental, you know, he doesn't control mind, and he doesn't control energy. He controls molecules. And he himself is an idiot.
Yeah.
So he is self-limiting. He has like in Dungeons and Dragons term, he has low charisma, he has low will, low intelligence, and that is why he works for me. Is he doesn't even understand how his powers work. It's very base. I need food, and he makes food. You know what I mean? But he can't control minds. You know, he can control your body, but like I'm sure Owen Reese like tried to make women love him, and it didn't work, and he just made horror women like, oh my god, my body is doing stuff I don't want to do. And that's why, like, when he met Volcana, who actually liked him, he was like sweet to her, because like, here's this ultimate being, and he's still an incel. Yeah, but like, he shouldn't be able to beat Thanos. Thanos has mental powers. Thanos could just crush him mentally. You know what I mean? Like,
but he has dominion over the molecules in Thanos's body.
Right, but like,
he could turn him into steam. He could turn him into water.
But like, so molecule, like, yes, if he comes up to Thanos, and Thanos is not aware, but don't you think Thanos has an energy force field? Like, does the Molecule Man intrinsically control every molecule in the, or does he emit rays that like he has to, like, because he puts up a force field, and then he just psionically wills him to be dead?
That's the problem, John. You know.
By the way, I appreciate that this is turning into a real It's Clobbering time right now.
Dan Kirby and Stan Lee never got into the weeds with that character.
Right.
I love him. I think he's probably one of the most interesting. Can you imagine? Reminds me of Goku. Goku's like he's like Superman. He's like walking plot armor. But because when he was a baby, when he crashed into Earth, he received brain damage. He's stupid. He's good natured because of how he was raised, but he's stupid, especially compared to his brother and the rest of them. So imagine having the powers of Superman in a body with the intelligence of little Abner, or something like that. He's a hick, he's a rube, he's a dullard, but he's a nice guy. But he can't. Could you imagine how dangerous and lethal he would be if he actually had something up here?
Right. Same with the Molecule Man. That's his self. And the same with the Sentry. I do like the character of the Sentry. Like, is he really retroactive? Are we supposed to believe that he retroactively is part of the, or is it his schizophrenia? I do. If you get the original 6-issue run by Paul Jenkins, I do think he's like one of the last great Marvel characters. But that now he's just like Michael Bendis just made him God-man, the superhero. He took out all of the subtleties, all of the insanities. And I will tell you that the Sentry is one of the inspirations for one of my characters. I don't want to give it away, but yeah, like I like guys with superpowers and then such a devastating weakness that I don't want to be the Sentry. This guy's got schizophrenia, and his schizophrenia manifests in other people because he's got Just imagine if Xavier had schizophrenia.
He does.
What's that?
He did. That's where Onslaught came from. Remember?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. Let me just check out these other comments, and then we'll get back. Hey, Omnipro. Hey, John. I've been a little mixed up with the times you go live now. Me too. Have you been able to nail down a regular time for Avengers Assembly and Sunday Comics? Sunday Comics is 10 a.m. every Sunday, except this weekend, because why would everything be? I'm working overtime tomorrow, Sunday, and Monday. The job is shut down, but I'm one of the lucky people that are working overtime, because nobody else wants to work on the 3-day weekend. I don't blame them. I'm just trying to catch up on the bills after being out of work for 2 years ago. My wife just reminded me. And now I want to retire in 2 years, so I'm filling up that 401k and trying to get ahead and stuff. But anyway, it's been a famine for a long time as far as overtime. So tomorrow at 7 p.m., I will do Avengers Assemble. And then Sunday at 7 p.m., I'll do Sunday Comics. But I want to do them both at 10 a.m. if I'm not working overtime. I know, like tonight, we usually have like 50 people by now, but I keep changing the times because I literally have been changing my times for everything because of work schedules. I worked that 3 to 10 shift for so long, and now I'm just working. I don't get home till 7:30. So by the time I take a shower, eat something, the earliest I can stream is 8:30, and then I go right to bed. Like I'll be going to bed in 20 minutes if we stop talking. So I hope that answers your question, OmniPro. The best, just I post them on YouTube as early as I can, so that people who follow me only on YouTube, they see. And then if you follow me on Twitter, I guess you get an hour's notice, which I realize isn't the best notice. Yeah, it's really been hurting the views of my channel, but real work. I gotta work. Have you heard about the Abrams Publishing and Printing John Byrne's X-Men? Yeah, I ordered it on, so it should be coming as soon as it's ready. I can't wait. I'm actually excited about a new Marvel comic. And I'm also ordering the DC Comics, the Swamp Thing, that where Swamp Thing meets Jesus. It's funny because now I'm probably not like it, but as a rebellious atheist kid, I couldn't wait for that comic. And now I'm probably like, this is something an edgy freshman in college would have written, Let's not forget Goku is also an example of what would happen if Superman has Asian martial arts mastery and expertise.
Maybe.
Oh, I would like to say that I think the Homelander versus Superman debate has been settled, because if you take away Homelander's powers, he turns into a piece of crap. I mean, he already was a piece of crap, but he's begging and degrading himself. You take away Superman's powers, he's still a hero. So ultimately, I didn't watch 1 second of the TV show The Boys. The only thing I know about the TV show The Boys, I've seen from people either asking me questions or you just can't avoid it, you know. But I read the comic The Boys. So in the Boys universe, Homelander is the top dog. And they removed the surprise. I was waiting for the surprise ending, and of course they didn't do it because whatever. But Superman fights Homelander. Homelander now gets challenged for the first time. The first time in the TV show he got challenged, he starts willing to degrade himself for mercy. What, you think there would be any difference if a powered Homeland starts to feel threatened by a powerful Superman? You know, he's basically a bully, and he's going to fall apart as soon as he gets challenged. Superman, whether Superman has powers versus a powered Homelander or Clark Kent with no powers versus Homelander, Superman wins. Yeah, I didn't watch the show. No, I watched the show. Yeah, just shows you what happens when you hate a politician more than you care about your show. That's pretty much what happened.
I like neither. I don't like that. I read the entire series, and I'm not the biggest Garth Ennis fan. Like I said, John, I have a feeling that when he was a kid, Garth Ennis was molested by a Catholic priest wearing a Superman shirt. Because I've never met a writer that hates religion, especially Christianity, and superheroes more than him. Like the hatred that comes from this man. I mean, it's mean-spirited. And I don't like Garth Ennis. I really don't. Like his Punisher run is okay. It's fine. It's not what I would consider to be the Punisher. It's fine, but I've just never really been a fan of that guy.
Yeah, I just loved his Hitman run. Believe it or not, I mean, not because Tommy Monahan was a good Roman Catholic in that show. His mother was a nun who was assaulted by a piece of crap guy, you know. So it was not. I take it back. I realized I'm messing up two characters, but he was a very religious character who did bad things and was trying to work out his comp. I thought it was a very sophisticated comic, and I really liked it. And I was surprised it came out in a normal DC. Talk about a sweetheart deal, because when Garth Ennis left the book, he killed off his own character, and nobody talks about him again. Like DC did that, like Aztec, if you remember with Grant Morrison, you were talking about DC sweetheart deal. What's the other one? Anarchy.
The Jack Knight Starman. He's
right.
Not you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. DC does a lot of weird stuff like that, you know. Yeah. I could see Homelander begging Superman for mercy. Yeah. Yeah. That became the new meme now, right? Just people have been ridiculing it, you know. And you know, and the fact that Eric Kripke says, like, you take any powerful man and you take away their power, that's what they revert to. It's just like, no, you have no concept of heroism. You know, like Patrick Henry, right? I regret that I have about one life to give for my country. Yeah. Patrick Henry didn't say, I'll eat your poop in front of the King of England. You know what I mean? There are heroes there, Mr. Kripke, and you obviously can't even conceive of them. That's why you don't come up with anything original. Sandman was basically a rewrite. Supernatural was basically a rewrite of Sandman. You know, and now Boys is Garth Ennis' story rewritten.
The thing about what he did with Homelander, and I don't even like that character, but I will stick up. If you denigrate your villain that much to that point, it sort of affects the hero, don't you think? Like if when Goliath was defeated, you know, so easily, and he was reduced to such a sniveling thing, wouldn't that sort of make David look a little bit weird too? You know, rather than, I don't know. It's like, and for me, it's, you know, it just,
a hero is defined by their villains, like,
exactly,
you know,
exactly. And if the villain, the main villain, the big bad is, oh, I'll do this to you, and I'll do this to you, and I'll provide you executive relief and all that. It's like, that makes Billy Butcher look like shit, in my opinion. You know, it's just that everyone in that universe is awful.
Well,
nobody
Billy Butcher is the main villain.
Yeah.
It's finally revealed at the end of the story that he's the main bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about Garth Ennis, like I said, I have a love-hate relationship with Garth Ennis. Was smart enough to realize that one of the last scenes is Billy Butcher goes to, I forget the woman's name. He's doing all as revenge because his wife got murdered. Just like that's why he took in Wee Yui, because Wee Yui, his fiance got murdered by superpowers. Billy Butcher finally has a moment where he realizes he's everything his dead wife hates. And he's in front of her grave crying, saying, "I'm a piece of crap. I'm the worst." And then he goes basically to go die. That's how the comic ends. Billy is revealed that he's been instigating all of this stuff so that he has if the superheroes aren't pieces of crap, then he has no purpose. And he knows that he crossed the line. He became a villain. His vengeance and hatred consumed him. That in a moment of clarity, he realized that I'm the bad guy, and I've been using my CIA connections to cause half of these problems, so I have an excuse to do this, because if I don't have this, I have nothing. I've already disgraced the memory of my wife. So if it stops, I have to live with this. So he was just keep going until he died. He was a piece of crap. The only person who was kind of good was Yui. And even he knows that he didn't do great things. And then Starlight realized, after a while, that this isn't for me. I can't believe I'm doing this stuff. I don't know how the show ended at all, but Homelander wasn't the bad guy. Spoiler alert. Everything that it was Black Noir. Black Noir, the clone of Homelander. And he did all of the horrible things. Now, Homelander was a piece of crap, but all the horrible things were the clone of Homelander. But they couldn't do that in the show because that would absolve Trump of all of his crimes. So,
not to mention, John, in the show they made Black Noir an actual black man, so they couldn't do it anyway.
Yeah, he never took off of it. And it's funny because the name Noir means black, so his name is literally Black. Oh, I didn't know they made him a black guy. But and then Mother's Milk didn't drink the mother's milk.
No,
and Homelander couldn't lose his powers. He was born with powers.
Yeah.
But whatever. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. And Garth Ennis put more effort in this comic finale than the show. Yeah, because he wrote it. He wrote it and then sold it to the TV show. It's basically like, whatever, do whatever you want. I'm curious what Eric Kripke grew up. He read comics. I read interviews with him. He was a big comic book fan. What he wanted to do, I forget, but he wanted to do a Sandman TV show, and he couldn't, and he made Supernatural. Billy Butcher seems like Garth Ennis Punisher self-insert. I don't know, but Garth Ennis,
The thing about the boys is that I don't think a lot of people know. Ennis did not come up with that concept. It came out in the late 80s, early 90s, originally published by Epic Comics, written by a guy called Pat Mills, who's a legend in English comics, and drawn by John, who was the guy that drew the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? Kevin O'Neill.
Yeah, you're talking Martial Law.
Yeah, it was called Martial Law, and that was essentially The Boys, but it was done so much better. In fact, that's Martial Law right there.
Yeah, I love Martial Law.
Yeah, his costume was essentially a gimp suit, but he would walk around and he would just kill superheroes. Yeah. He was the government funded executioner of superheroes.
Right.
Yeah, and it was much more tongue in cheek, much less serious, much less hateful than The Boys. The Boys was just, there are certain comics that I read, that I've read, that are just so unpleasant that I'm like, why the hell am I reading this? I
didn't like The Boys comic. I read it because I'm a crazy person. I got all the issues. I think I read like 20 or so. I was like, this, because the Punisher gave me a bad feeling in my stomach too. But there was something redeeming about the Punisher. I got to go back and see, am I deluding myself? But there was something I liked about the Punisher. There was I think that not the Punisher, the Preacher. There was something. I still like the Punisher. To me, I think he did Frank Castle one of the best, but I know we'll disagree on that. But I liked Preacher even though it gave me an uneasy feeling. But Boys, it never there was nobody to root for. Everybody in that comic was a piece of crap.
Mhm.
It was like Breaking Bad. There was nobody to root for. Everybody was a jerk. I guess the cop, the uncle, the bald cop. He at least he was a cop, a good guy. He was the only one who was kind of good. But Breaking Bad was rough. But Breaking Bad was well written, and it pulled together at the end, and it was a good, satisfying story. The Boys was just, like you said, it was just hateful. Garth Ennis wrote that because he hates superheroes, and he knew he had to do a superhero comic to make money.
Like we were talking about the other day with RJ. There's something odd to me about that island that is literally steeped with chivalry and heroism. The Arthurian ideals, but yet those people just cannot do superheroes.
Right, because
they don't. Alan Grant. I say out of all those British invasion comics writers, Alan Grant was my favorite because that man could write Batman. Oh wow, that guy could write Batman very well, and he could write subversive stuff like Lobo and all that. That guy had talent. The rest of them,
yeah. But my theory is all the chivalry heroic guys came to America.
Possibly.
And all the nonconformists and all the individualists left Britain and came to America, and then all the conformists stayed there. And now their main hero is a fascist cop who wants to, obey the law and get killed. Look what's going on in England right now. Couldn't you see Judge Dredd just stepping out right now? And you've tweeted and hurt somebody's feelings.
Oh yeah, I could see the judges there. Yeah, they were interviewing Alan Moore once, and they asked him, about the English superhero. English comics stuff, and he said, "Well, we didn't have superheroes. We had the Beano, we had the Dandy, we had Dan Dare. All these their version of Dennis the Menace. The closest thing they had to a superhero was Marvel Man." And Marvel Man was it was there in short bursts, and then finally it went away. So they didn't really grow up with superheroes. A superhero is a main American invention. It's something that America created. It's like America created three things: Native American culture, and I'm talking not Indian culture, but like people that were Native Americans. We created jazz. We created the mystery story, Edgar Allan Poe, and we created comic books and superheroes. And that's why it's a very American thing. And that's why, I don't mean to sound like a dick, but that's why most foreigners can't really handle those kinds of concepts. They're like, to an Alan Moore, how can a person with the powers of a god resist taking over the world? No, he'd take over the world, man. He'd just take it all over. He wouldn't put on a garish costume and fight crime. No, there's something more to that. He probably does horrible things in his private life. He's probably a creep. He probably
superheroes. It's the outcome. It's the natural progression of the cowboy.
Exactly.
They're like, the cowboy, the individual who solves problems through violence. That's And I love people who say, "What did violence ever solve?" It's like everything. Violence has solved everything.
Or the threat of violence.
Right. But I don't know. So I would, since you DC, I'll talk about my DC pitch. I'm real curious about what you think of this. So DC, I would want to do Captain Marvel, Shazam. So it's the same. Everything that happened, it's basically a continuation of the Jerry Ordway Power of Shazam series. Mm-hmm. So everything that has happened already happened. But why Billy Batson? What took so long? And of course, me being a freak. Oh, Matt's here. What's up, fellas? Back from the Mando movie. Cool. Hey, Matt, you want to join us? We're talking about what would you pitch to Marvel and DC with my friend Tony over here. Just click on the link and join us if you feel so inclined. So the premise tonight is if you were before Marvel, DC, or Dark Horse or whatever, what would you pitch to them? And I'm pitching Captain Marvel, Shazam. So it's revealed over, so first off, to put it in the context, a little boy, Billy Batson, he's an orphan kid, but he's still upbeat, positive, and happy. He's not this sour, angry kid that we saw in the movies, which that kid would have turned into a villain. That kid would have turned into a villain. And then he gets the power of these gods, the power of Shazam, and I mean the power of Solomon, the wisdom of Solomon. What is the wisdom of Solomon? So depends on who you ask. If you ask like Jewish scholars, it's how to enjoy life and wisdom of good rule. But you look at whether historical or mythological Solomon, he split Israel. The whole story about him cutting the baby in half, whichever one screams, no, don't do it. That's the real. That was about the 10 tribes and the the breaking apart of Israel into Judah and Israel and everything. And Israel will lament the loss for Judah, celebrated also. Israel is the real, true Jewish people. That whatever. But it's still split. So, like, is he really that right? But you go to the Islamic side, he controlled demons, and he used powers of Asmodeus to build the temple, and he did all these stuff. So I'm thinking about stuff like that. So you got all these Greek gods get together, they bestow upon this power, and then they get this, poet and wizard together to top it all off. And they give it the power of a child. And what does he do? He sits in the rock of eternity, which is beyond time and space. He has the historiograph, so he could look into the future, the past, and everything. He's got the 7 deadly sins contained. So you always see that one side, the 7 deadly sins. I would have the camera go like this, and you see the 7 virtues on the other side. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So he and then it finds out that he just does basic superhero stuff. But what he's really doing beyond time and space is he's fighting like Azathoth and Cthulhu type threats, things that need to magic containment. And he doesn't even let the world go. He doesn't go insane and he doesn't fall apart because he has the whimsy nature of a child. Like a child burns his hand and then 20 minutes later is playing again. Or he gets yelled at by his father and he's still like, he's devastated. And 20 minutes later, he's like, that's my dad, kind of thing. Like these ultimate. So he doesn't just get discouraged. He could face down these cosmic horrors and battle them. And here's the other thing: Superman is the role model for all the other superheroes. Like if whether he's got that thread of force too, because Firestorm gets out of control. Even Firestorm knows I can't mess with Superman. Even Batman knows push comes to shove, Superman's the guy. And then but it's not gonna happen because Superman Captain Marvel's the guy that Superman looks up to. He's like even when Superman feels down, he talks to Captain Marvel, and Captain Marvel like, oh, Superman. And he's just like, man, that is the that's Superman's role model kind of thing. That's my pitch for Captain Marvel. So
I like that. But ever since DC got him, they've denigrated the captain.
Right.
They've never known what to do with him. And he, in essence, he's superfluous in a world with Superman. Right. So but I like that you're gonna put him more or less equals or peers. There's not going to be like remember how they used to make fun of him in the Justice League in the Blaha era, And this is a guy that has the powers of Superman. He's literally a physical match, and they're just laughing at him. I remember.
And anytime, I'm sure somebody could find an obscure time, but as far as I know, every time they've ever fought, Captain Marvel won.
Yeah, pretty much because essentially Mark Waid and Alex Ross forgot about that. Next to kryptonite, the biggest weakness to Superman is magic, and if he would have called he would have just grabbed and called 2 or 3 of those magic thunderbolts, Kryptonian or not, he would have been a puddle of blood by the second one. That's the powers of the gods right there.
Right. So I would have them, they're equals, but they have different missions. So they're not, they're not rivals for stories.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think that Marvel and DC, they're like, if I could write a Superman story, I could write a Captain Marvel story. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, if you put Batman and Daredevil in the same universe, I think they would have like so much overlap. Like, all right, I got a couple of Daredevil stories. Well, we're good on Daredevil now. Just okay, I'll turn it into a Batman story. The way I'm thinking of it is like the Superman stories. you can't just transfer him. Like Captain Marvel would have his own. Like we're talking like interdimensional. Like look at all his villains rogue gallery. Like you got Mr. Mind. Tell me that's not like a little worm that controls your brains and burrows into your body. That's like, that's body horror. You got that Satan guy. I forget his name.
Well, you have Ibak, and then you have Sabak, which is Ibak is for Captain Marvel. Sabak is for Captain Marvel Jr. You had, oh man, he had monsters there. The original Mr. Mind's Monster Society of Evil were just dragons and hydras and ogres. Yeah, and then you had, so it's very whimsical, very mystical. Whereas Superman is more science fiction.
Right. So I would play that up. Like Captain Marvel's not going to go to Jupiter and stop an alien invasion. He's going to go between dimensions and fight these like demonic entities that are like, corrupting us, through everyday society or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, and Captain Marvel doesn't even tell you about it because just like it's like H.P. Lovecraft said, one of the greatest things about the human mind is its inability to perceive just how precarious everything is. I'm sure I'm messing up the quote, but
how insignificant he is.
Right. Yeah. Like if you even knew, what was out there, people would be. He's there to protect you, like a good dad. Like, oh, there's no monsters under the bed. Meanwhile, they're all monsters on the bed, but that kid doesn't need to know that. He's never going to be able to sleep. Even if I beat that monster, that kid's going to know monsters are real. You know what I mean? That's what he would do. I think that's the only way. And you keep it whimsical because that's his greatest asset. Superman's greatest asset is he always knows the right thing to do, and he will always do the right thing. Batman's greatest is he outthinks. He can figure it out. I think Wonder Woman's greatest asset is she's like inspiring, and she, what I mean. That's what Wonder Woman's supposed to be. At least modern Wonder Woman. She's supposed to make you inspired to want to be better, kind of thing. Or at least that's what I would do with Wonder Woman. And Captain Marvel, Shazam, is his greatest thing is he's got this childlike innocence. Like in the midst of all these horror, he'll still stop and giggle at something silly. I don't know. And that's his defense against it. And that's why Black Adam was corrupted.
Because he was an adult.
He was an adult. Mm-hmm. And the person with that, Billy Batson had that self-sufficientness. He had loss, but at the same time, it didn't consume him. That kind of person only shows up every 5,000 years, But we got a bunch of comments and a lot of good comments. To be honest, the Japanese do super. I was going to say that, but I didn't want to interrupt Tony. Everybody tells me to read My Hero Academia. I never read Ultraman or Kamen Rider, but One Punch Man I'm interested in reading. But they're telling me that Japanese are doing American superheroes the best these days. Let's not forget about Deadman, Super Robot Enemy like Banger Z. I remember watching that as a kid. Get a Robo. That sounds cool. Get a Robo sounds so Japanese. Steel Jag, Gay Kid. Yeah, I don't know all these. Speaking of Shazam, will the Long Box universe have its own Shazam, DC, Captain Marvel as a D? Yes, but here's the problem. In the Long Box universe, there's comic books. The Patriarch's kids read comics and stuff, and there's Top Comics. And there's Premier Comics, and that's going to be the Marvel and DC. And Eddie is Doomed is about Top Comics ending the Golden Age and starting the New Age. And poor Eddie can't do it. So it's spoofing on Crisis on Infinite Earth. So I have a character that's Captain Marvel who lives on his own world and has his own. But I'm torn between bringing him into the mainstream, like the Patriarch's world, or letting him be a comic book character in the Patriarch's world. So I don't know what to do with him yet. So Eddie is Doomed is currently being worked on. It's Tonic Bowl is a little behind the 8 ball as far as his own comics. And his comics just went to the printer, and because he works on it first, and he gets all excited and everything like that. I think like most artists, but then reality hit him that he needed to get his books out. So what am I going to tell him? Don't put your books out. put my book out that doesn't even have a release date. I that's not fair. So Oscar is drawing it and coloring it too. So we're just waiting for Tommy Gold, and that's not a dig at him. It's just the way it works, And it's going to be a self-contained thing. So when it like a wizard, when it shows up, it's right on time. But I don't know. I don't want to reveal the name of the character yet because it's But I think it's a perfect name for a Captain Marvel ripoff or homage. Homage because I did it with love. Ripoff is when you just it's money grab. I only brought up the Japanese superheroes. Yeah. I Tony, have you ever read My Hero Academia or anything?
I read it. It's not my thing. One Punch Man. That to me is the greatest modern superhero book I've read for a long time. I love that story. I really like that book. Yeah, the Japanese are doing the Japanese, for whatever reason, understand the superhero concept more than, like I said, the British of all things. You would think that an island, like I said, steeped with, heroism, tradition, chivalry, would know exactly how to tap into that. But no, all they know is how to take things apart and put them back together again.
To me, it's even odder because, the Japanese do have that history of the samurai hero and stuff like that. So they do have their own Bushido and history and chivalry and everything. But as far as I know, and I'm probably wrong, but the Japanese are even more conformist.
Possibly.
Yeah. One of my friends spent a long time in Japan, and he said one of their expressions, even other kids would tell, is the hammer, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down.
Yeah.
Conform. So to me, the whole point of superheroes and the Westerns is the character who doesn't conform and rises above it and does the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And we saw how conformist Americans were during COVID. Jeez, that was such a disappointment. But yeah, so I'm surprised that the Japanese do superheroes at all. But then the Japanese talk about there are no bigger American bolsters than the Japanese. Back in the 90s, I remember there was punk rock bands that we would have guys with mohawks, but then the Japanese would have guys with gigantic mohawks, even louder and crazier. Now they got rockabilly, and you see these guys just with pompadours that are ridiculous.
Not just that, they've got a cholo culture over there with lowriders. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I saw that too.
Lowriders over there, which is hilarious.
Yeah, they got they got bluegrass festivals, and somebody told me, one of my friends works in Japan, and said that some of the schools, they'll sing "Take Me Home, West Virginia," as during when you have those rallies in school, so they're singing a John Denver song. You know what I mean? Because basically he's singing about his love for his homeland, and they're talking about Japan. So it's the same feelings. I don't know. These people, I used to think the Irish love America more than America, but I think the Japanese love America more than America.
Possibly.
Oh, we already saw that, and we got a super chat. Thank you, RRTNZ. You don't have to super chat to talk to me. Although every dollar goes towards paying StreamYard. Man, I got it. I was up in the ceiling at work today, so I'm working at a stadium, so I'm up in the rafters. And when I tell people electrician, they think I'm just splicing wires all day long. 90% of my job is putting supports for these big tubes. These big metal tubes, inside they're filled with wires, so they got to be supported, otherwise they fall out of the sky and kill everybody. So 90% of the time, I'm up in inaccessible ceilings of buildings, drilling and putting in these metal racks, crawling. I'm the 60-year-old guy crawling around through the ceiling, and my phone pings. I look, and it's deposit. I just got my money from YouTube, which I had probably about 25 minutes in my account before it came out to pay for StreamYard. So there you go, the circle of life. But at least StreamYard didn't cost me anything. So that's what this $10 is. So subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, super chat. I got to do all the YouTube stuff. Thank you, RR. So he says, my pitch for DC: a disabled scientist becomes Green Lantern. Imagine Stephen Hawking as Green Lantern, a genius mind with the power of a Green Lantern ring. Fighting cosmic villains is easy compared to his everyday. That's pretty cool. I do like the idea of a severely disabled person gifted superpowers, and in my thinking, and I keep bringing up my role-playing game, Village Vigilantes, you can't rest. So in Village Vigilantes, you have stamina, and stamina is how tired you are. And it's tiring to fire laser beams, punch through buildings. So just like you keep track of your hit points, you keep track of your stamina. You can't rest and use your powers. You have to turn off your force fields. All your Colossus has to turn back into Peter Rasputin, or he can't get his powers back. Like, to me, Billy Batson can't heal as Captain Marvel. He has to turn back into Billy Batson. So this character, like severely like a Stephen Hawking guy, turns into Superman, and then you're like, well, what's his weakness? Well, his weakness is most of the time he's a guy in a wheelchair. Like Billy Batson is a little boy 90% of the time. He can get hit by a bus. He could get sick and die. You know what I mean? Billy Batson doesn't have any. So I do like that ability of, or that dichotomy of a severely handicapped person, and then they have these great powers. But to balance it out, you would have to turn off all your abilities.
Dr. Don Blake, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What if Donald Blake got hit by a car? Odin's like, well, that's part of the ability. Like I'm sure Odin would save him, you know what I mean? But But thank you for that super chat. And you got a follow up, Tony. With respect, you don't understand the British concept of heroism. Most of our heroes are either heroic failures or epic last stands. Watch Zulu. That's British hero. Yes, I agree with that movie. But we're talking about the comics.
The concept of British heroism, I truly understand. I get some great heroic, real life heroic tales there, but I'm talking about superhero stuff. It's like the majority of people that were hired away from 2000 AD mainly by Karen Berger. They were put on these books, and they just didn't understand the concept of superheroes. They just wanted to. What's like I was telling to John. Sometimes, like with Swamp Thing, I liked what he did because the character of Swamp Thing was paper thin. It was nothing. Really, it was nothing. So that gave Alan Moore the room to completely redefine and recreate that character and make it unique. Whereas, most of them, it's just deconstruction. It's, Homelander stuff. It's, let's make these characters depraved, degenerates, evil, because I myself cannot think that a man like Superman could exist because nobody.
Well, I mean, you argue too hard. Like the proof is just like, well, where's the British superhero made in Britain by Brits?
Mm-hmm.
There is none. Like,
not really.
Literally, the only British superhero is arguably Judge Dredd.
Yeah,
and he's the bad guy.
Yeah, I guess he's law and order, I suppose.
Right. He's law and order in a fascist state. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and again, keep in mind, I probably read 2 Judge Dredd comics in my life, so my knowledge of Judge Dredd is, I never even saw the Carl Urban movie because the Sylvester Stallone movie. But I guess I'll see it now because everybody says
it's great, John. That's as close to the book as you're ever going to get. It is violent, though. Yeah. Really violent, very gory. I don't know if that'll turn you off, but very violent.
This is interesting. My DC pitch: Miracle Man and Robin. Jason Todd. I think it would work because they're both circus performers, or at least maybe not Jason Todd, but the first thing that popped into my head is Miracle Man doing escape acts, and then Robin, Dick Grayson, like doing his acrobatic, like some sort of superhero circus. But I don't know about you guys, but circuses scare the crap out of me. I don't know why. They're just terrifying. So it would always degenerate into horror if a circus or a carnival is involved. Tony, you just answered your own question as to why there are no great British superhero. Our concept of heroism is different.
Possibly. I just wish you guys, like, you're really good with science fiction. You're really good with fantasy, very good with fantasy. C.S. Lewis, J.R. Tolkien, the Harry Potter lady whose name escapes me at the moment. Yeah, you guys are really good with that, but you guys can't really do capes. I mean, you can't, like I said, Alan Grant, who was Scottish, that man could write the hell out of an American comic. That man understood it. he could write like an American. He could write really well. It's a shame that people have forgotten him, you know. And I mean, his contributions to Batman alone were epic, you know. But most of them, they just don't know how to do that. I don't know. I mean, it just boggles my mind when I try to, like, I would love to throw the gauntlet down and just challenge Garth Ennis. Alan Moore wrote some of the most beautiful, most heartfelt Superman stories ever. I mean, whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow for the man that has everything. But I would like Garth Ennis to write a really good Superman story. Not Homelander, you know, none of that. Just write a really good one-shot show me.
He already did.
Did he?
Yeah, it's Hitman number 34 when Hitman meets Superman. It's one of my favorite Superman stories. It's it's a bit of a downer, but it's Superman in a moment of doubt. Superman goes to rescue an astronaut, a space shuttle is having and it's got a nuclear reactor. So Superman flies to space, and he says that the people, they were panicking. They were freaking out. These two astronauts were freaking out. And as soon as they saw Superman, in the midst of burning, they relaxed and calmed down because they knew that Superman was there. Just seeing him, they knew that they were saved. Like, I thought that was beautiful. And he saves them. And one guy starts yelling, you know, and then he says, what about the captain? What about the captain? So Superman scans and doesn't find the captain. And he says he must have, because it's old, so he must have blown out in space, you know, and returns. And then he goes, no, he's behind the lead shielding. He was trying to turn down. Superman couldn't find him because there's lead shielding around the reactor. And by the time Superman flies back, the ship blows up and the guy dies. So now Superman's like, I failed. I failed. And he goes, they instantly trusted me, and I let them down. And Tommy Monahan's like, what are you, crazy? He goes, how many people did you save? He goes, how many times did you save me? And I don't even know it. He goes, you're Superman. You're not God. He goes, you know, you're being too hard on yourself. Superman's like, I have to be hard on myself. You know, I can't. And then just go back and forth. And they're talking about Tommy Monahan is an immigrant from Ireland, and Superman's an immigrant from Krypton, and why they love America. It's the most pro-America, you know, pro-superhero comic book from a guy who hates all. Well, I don't think he hates America.
You sold me, John. I never read the Hitman really, but I got to track down that issue.
Yeah, it's really good. That particular, and then the next issue is the saddest comic I've ever read. It's the story of Tommy's mother. And then the thing is, the issue right before Superman is the stupidest, silliest, laugh out loud comic I've ever read, because Garth Ennis said I did whatever I wanted. The editors just said, do whatever you want. We don't care. So every issue is like a one shot. Like, the early stories were basically the Punisher fighting the mafia, and then later on there's vampires. It's a really good series, which is why I love Garth Ennis, and I'm remarkably forgiving. You know, like, but I got to say Garth Ennis' credit is starting to wear thin. You know, like, if you come out with a great album, I'm getting your next 7 albums. But there's some point where I'm not getting your next 23 albums. You know what I mean? But anyway, let's see. Kyojo, how you doing, Kyojo? Maybe Dick Grayson might feel Jason post Lazarus Pit might be more potential. This is another thing I would pitch to DC. The Lazarus Pit would be very suspicious. It resurrects you from the dead. But that's just your body and your mind. You have a new soul. That's the way I would work the Lazarus Pit. That way, like, maybe Batman is more, the body and the mind. That's my guy. But somebody like Captain Marvel would be like, you ain't putting me in that, because you know you would be vulnerable to demonic possession. You know what I mean? Like, the Lazarus Pit would be a way for like demons to come back. You know, so who came back in the Lazarus Pit? Did Jason Todd? That's not Jason Todd. His spirit is gone. It's the mind of Jason Todd. It's the body of Jason Todd, but it's an alien soul. That's the way I would work the Lazarus Pit.
The pre-crisis continuity was every time Ra's al Ghul would use the pit, the effects would last shorter than the last time because he'd already used it for like 500 years before.
Oh, I gotcha.
So there was like a limit there. It was getting, and there were a finite number of pits around the world. Remember, he would have to find one all the time. Yeah, so I don't know post-crisis what they did with the pits.
Right.
So
okay, you used it. That one's burnt up now.
Yes, you can't use it anymore. It's useless. Yeah.
And I would say that still fits in with my way of thinking. That's not his soul anymore. That's another spirit inhabiting his body with Ra's al Ghul's memories and brain, and body. And it already, those entities already got what they wanted. So every time he uses it, it fixes them less and less because they already got what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. The Boys is a ripoff of Martial. Yeah, we were talking about this earlier. The Boys is a ripoff of Martial Law by Pat Mills.
Exactly.
Yep. You missed out on. We already talked about that. I loved Martial Law. It was really funny. Believe it or not, it was actually funny.
Yeah, Pat Mills was a guy that could be subversive without being hateful, and that is a tightrope that you really need talent to tread. Otherwise you end up being spirited and ugly.
I remember he meets the Golden Age Silver Streaker, and it's a guy with a Flash helmet, with the helmet with the wings, and he's totally naked and he's silver like the Silver Surfer, but he's drawn without any genitalia. So Martial Law says to him, he goes, "Let me ask you, what's going on down there?" He goes, "I vibrated at super speed, so you can't see it." And then Martial Law just looks away, and he goes, "And it feels good too." And it just, I still remember that from 1987. It makes me laugh. The Silver Streaker. John's best buddy, Mark Miller, is a British looking at work on superheroes. Grant Morrison wrote All-Star Superman is really good. Mark Miller's superhero run, sorry, Mark, if you're watching, I still don't find him to be inspiring superhero works. Like Nemesis really hurts my stomach. I don't know if I ever want to read it. I've been putting off reading it. Kick-Ass only works because they're not superheroes. It's a dopey, stupid kid. But I like Kick-Ass. But I can't think of, I didn't read Jupiter Circle yet. Maybe that'll change my mind. But I really liked his comic about the super crooks, about the heist. They're super crooks that are going to rob the greatest supervillain of all time. I thought that was great. They weren't heroes; they were a bunch of scumbags. And the only superhero in that comic was the worst scumbag. Superheroes are an American institution, yeah. And I think
I would respond to him. Which Grant Morrison? Because the Grant Morrison of the 80s that wrote Arkham Asylum basically reinforced a lot of the Millerisms and that were introduced in the Batman universe. The whole thing of Joker being physically in love with Batman, and that Batman's as crazy as the people that he puts into the asylum. But then you have the current Grant Morrison, which is an odd one, that just he thinks that putting a bunch of references from the lamest era of Batman, which is the era that was around with Frederick Wortham, which is the one where he goes into space and he becomes the Batman of Zenar-Ur, however the hell you say that, or the Batman of the world, and all these really awful concepts that makes it good. No, it just makes it quirky. I'll give him that. His take on Batman is quirky, but again, I'm just talking true heroism. I get it. I understand where that guy's coming from. He's defending his home turf. But for me, outside of Alan Grant, I've never really been bowled over. I will check out that Hitman issue you were telling me about, because I'd love to see Garth Ennis actually do something nice. I've never actually seen him actually write a good thing. It's all dark and.
I will say, Alan Moore's Supreme is some of the best Superman comics ever written.
Yeah. Well, we all know why he did that. He knows he screwed up by bringing that British 2000 AD sensibilities to a company like DC that was never built for that kind of darkness. They were just built. So that's the thing. I was arguing with that once with somebody I know. It's like Marvel can do it because from 1939, from the first issue of Marvel Comics, it was anti-heroes. They were built different. Martin Goodman, Bill Everett, Carl Burgos, they built them different. DC is simpler. It's why does Superman do what he does? Because it's good. And it's the good thing to do. You know, why does Wonder Woman do what she does? Because she's good. And that's the good thing to do. So you have two different the 2000 AD method works better with Marvel, in my opinion, than it does with DC. You know, because then you can't have a morally ambiguous Batman, because a morally ambiguous Batman is the Shadow. You know, you can't have a morally ambiguous Superman because that's Homelander. That's Omni-Man.
Probably out of how conformist we have due to how survival driven and desperate are due to the economy. You gotta rewrite that. I don't know exactly what you're saying. All right, but luckily El Salvador, yes, they're doing really well. Let's cheer them on. Let's hope that America joins its sail. I mean, right now we New York City, it's falling apart. We had 6 inches of rain and the whole city's underwater. A woman literally got swept away to her death because getting off a bus. You know, they found dead bodies underneath train tracks. I mean, underneath tunnels because they just got trapped and couldn't get out because of 6 inches of rain in an hour. Not a hurricane, because New York City, at least we have money for transgender operations and bike lanes because we want to reduce global warming, but our infrastructure is falling apart. But that's a whole other story. Oh, which brings me to my Batman pitch. Batman is freaking tired of the Joker getting out of jail all the time. So Bruce Wayne, he doesn't have time to run for office, but he finances the campaigns of tough-on crime politicians to clean up. It doesn't matter what Batman does. It doesn't matter. Bruce Wayne uses his prestige, becomes Elon Musk, and starts saying, "We got it. We got to do Doge in Gotham City. We got to clean out the books." And now villains are going after Bruce Wayne, and Batman's got to protect Bruce Wayne. How's that for?
That's not bad.
DC will never take it because Batman's now beating up Antifa and corrupt judges. You know, he's basically going around like, how many times are we going to arrest the Joker and he gets out again?
You know, the Batman's never been the same since Denny O'Neil stopped editing him. It's sort of been kind of downward for me on that one.
Alan wrote Baltimore for the Man Who Has Everything, one of the all-time great superhero stories.
I said that.
Which one is that the one with the Man Who Has Everything? That's the one with the Black Lotus, right?
Yeah, that's the one where they go Wonder Woman, Batman, Robin, right. Jason Todd go to celebrate his birthday, and they bring him something, and there's Mongol with the Black Lotus, and it's a beautiful story. Like I said, it blows.
I will say the flaw in that story, I talked to Shine Comics, and he pointed it out to me, and I had to go check it out. The Black Lotus is supposed to give you everything that you want. So why did it give Superman a dystopian Krypton?
Because that was his brain trying to wake him up.
Oh, okay.
He was trying to give himself a nightmare in order to wake up, because his body knew something was wrong. And
okay.
All right. You know, yeah.
You answered my question. All right. Ken Jacob, who's watching me on Rumble. Wow, you are my first comment from Rumble. Thank you so much, Ken Jackman. Ra's al Ghul was crazy because he lived long. I'll say he's crazy because his soul is gone, and something, the Lazarus pit corrupted his soul. But both of them work. And I'm just a crazy person who comes up with crazy ideas. My word is not gospel. This is just the purpose of tonight's show is if we pitched for Marvel and DC. So I'm answering as if I'm pitching for Marvel and DC. But yes, you are absolutely right, Kenja. And thank you for watching on Rumble and commenting. Thank you. You have proved to me that it's actually working, because it's a pain in the neck to set up a Rumble stream and add it to StreamYard. You have to do it separately. It's just one more thing you got to do. The same way that Bagel Savage is a nut job because he lived a long time. It's not necessarily lack of soul or any other things. Just, yeah, I do think that like, how long would you live if we just don't care about people anymore? It's a scary thing to contemplate. Yep. Yeah, everybody dies, and then next thing you know, it's better to just withdraw from people, otherwise you constantly get hurt. John, you proved the status super is genius. Have you seen that? I didn't know there was an animated adaptation. I didn't know that. I tend not to. I don't watch the animated versions and stuff like that because they usually disappoint me. Grant Morrison wrote The Matrix. It was called The Invisibles. You know what's funny about that? So many people have said it. I've read The Invisibles 3 times, and I honestly can't recall anything that happened. Like that book has like a magic spell about it that I just cannot absorb. There's 3 volumes of it. I remember pieces of it, but I don't remember what the comic was about. I barely remember the character, and every once in a while I'm like, let me give it another try. There's just something memory resistant about that comic to me. I don't remember anything about the Matrix comic.
It's typical Grant Morrison gobbledygook. That's all it is. It's just weirdness. I would like to address what he said at the bottom. I love the Alan Moore Captain Britain run. But you see back there, he made it political because the villain of his run is Margaret Thatcher. It's not a woman. It's a MP, a conservative MP called Jim Jaspers. But it's like his horror story, like Eric Kripke. Eric Kripke's horror story is, gosh, what if Trump got superpowers? Well, with Alan Moore's, gosh, what if Margaret Thatcher got reality warping superpowers and starts putting everyone in concentration camps? It's a good run, but again, I guess it's heroic, but it's like it's too mired in politics, too mired in his it's like V for Vendetta. It's very political.
Marvel is a dark and gritty universe. That's why the anti-hero like Captain America was the furthest from it. Yeah, you say Marvel, literally their first superheroes were almost bad guys.
Captain Marvel was never. He's a square peg in a round hole because Captain America, because he was essentially American war propaganda. His whole existence was, let's go beat the Nazis, rah, 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 rah. It's only Stan Lee and Jack Kirby that gave the character, in my opinion, a character. Because the stuff in the 40s is fun to read, but it's not really well written. It's just fun to read.
I like the 50s Captain America, who was the commie smasher.
Yeah, that one was good too. Early John Romita Sr. work there. But that's the reason why he never really fit in the sea of anti-heroes that was Marvel Comics, in my opinion.
And the DC universe has their character because they're bright and optimistic, and the character is the contrast to that world is Batman. That's a good observation. So you're saying that Batman is the outlier in DC and Captain America is the outlier in Marvel. That's a good observation. I got to think about that. That's pretty
good.
astute. I like that. I never thought about it that way. But keep in mind, up until Denny O'Neil, Batman was just an optimistic, interchangeable guy with everybody else. The smiling, But I do like the detective Batman the best. I call it the Denny O'Neil Batman, even though it's probably the Neil Adams Batman. I'm talking about Mexico and Latin America's understanding of heroism. Then it's not so good. I don't know much about. Oscar sent me some Mexican comics. They're a blast. I'm actively looking for more Mexican comics. I get a kick out of them. I love Cali Man. I think he's my new. What can Cali Man do? Whatever Cali Man needs to do. And he has a hot Indian girl sidekick in a bikini. What else do you want? Yeah, ever hear Morrison's interpretation of the end of Killing Joke? He reckons Batman kills Joker, which is why he laughs. The laughing ends. Yeah, you even hear a snap. It's supposed to be. I always thought it was that he just snaps Joker. Like, it's a bad day. Even Batman had a bad day. I don't know. As much as I'm still an Alan Moore guy, the Killing Joke, I think, my least favorite Alan Moore thing that I've ever read.
And even he apologized for that later. He even apologized. He said, I took it too far. I should never have done that to Barbara Gordon. It's like, well, yeah. Again, the horrible management at BC. It should have been like, you're going to cripple Barbara Gordon. No, you're not going to cripple. No.
Well, the best thing to come out of it is I thought Oracle was such a more interesting character than Barbara Gordon. I think she was original, but I know, but they could have came up with Oracle without her being Barbara Gordon. Like John Ostrander, he made up Oracle. Do you think he would have made her up if the Killing Joke ever came out? I don't know. I think that character, and maybe in a way in another universe she'd still be around because she wouldn't have turned back into Batgirl. Another DC pitch. Clark Kent and Superman are literally two different people, basically doppelganger raised. I don't know. I like Clark Kent as Superman's refuge. His contact with humanity. The only thing that I would do is he would just to my way of thinking, there has never been an iteration of Lois Lane that was worthy of Superman. They've always made her. She's never been played. I take it back. The animated series was actually a Lois Lane that was the marrying kind. But they pursue her like the John Byrne one was insufferable. As much as I like John Byrne, man, I want. She would like her first introduction is she just kicks open the doors and says, "What's news, wage slaves?" It's like the bitch that insulted me every day when I'm trying to pay my mortgage. I don't need this. I'm just the guy trying to work, and she's calling me a wage slave. Oh, I understand you're better than all of us, girl boss. Like she was insufferable. So if my pitch is Superman just looks at Lois Lane and be like, I had it. Go back to Lana Lang. Lana Lang was where it's at. Hell, it's all based on deranged self-indulgent fantasy. What the other side is like. The Boys is pathetic murder fantasy. I couldn't get past the pilot. Yeah, I think basically the people in my chat don't like The Boys. I think it's safe to say. K.O.J. is agreed. Real life Trump faces the threat of death with courage. I know. Yeah. He stands up and yells, "Fight!" He didn't know if there was more shooting going on. I don't want to talk about that. That'll get my channel a lot of times. Thatcherism did so much damage Britain in the long term. Taking a shot at it. Perhaps you need a British aid in the same way. Yeah, look how good Labor's been doing for Labor's just doing the great for Britain. I mean, at least you can get a good curry. Don't let your 10-year-old daughter go outside. Any fans here for I love Miracle Man. I know Tony probably hates it because it just deconstructs it. But I never had an affection for Marvel Man. So.
It's a very beautifully written, beautifully illustrated piece of superhero deconstruction. I like it, even though it epitomizes everything I dislike about the British invasion of comics in the 80s. It's like, again, we can't have nice things because people that have see, I don't know about you, John. Maybe you feel that way too, but I like to have hope for people. Like I don't look around and see everyone around me is a pervert or gonna kill me in some. I try to look for the best in people.
Right, me too.
That's the way I was raised, and that goes counter to I'm not going to say the 2000 AD people. They can't see, like they can't look at a person with those powers that could actually be altruistic. Like there has to be something wrong here. There has to be something. No,
to Marvel Man, I thought it was a brilliant deconstruction of Marvel Man, a character I didn't even know he existed until I read that comic. So I had no love of Marvel. Had they did the same story with Billy Batson Shazam, I would have been like, no effing way. So I could see what's that?
To the superheroes, remember?
Well, you got all murky for a second. What did you say?
Alan Moore was going to do something similar to what he did with Marvel Man or Miracle Man with Captain Marvel in the Twilight of the Superheroes.
Yes. They were like, no, you ain't touching it. Yeah, I read the treatment of it. I'm glad it didn't go through. But Marvel Man, for those of you who don't know, I forget the guy, the creator's name, but they basically ripped off Captain Marvel in Britain, called it Marvel Man, and then brought Marvel Man back to America, but they couldn't call it Marvel Man, so they called it Miracle Man. So that convoluted story. And it's Alan Moore. It's a guy who says a magic word, and instead of magic, it's science, and he transformed and then tore it down to pieces, made it super realistic, very dark, everything that I don't like, but it was well written. I didn't know this character, so for all intents and purposes, it was Alan Moore's own character, as far as you know what I mean? And it was really interesting, really well written, beautifully illustrated. Steve Bissett, John Totleben. And then he handed it to Neil Gaiman, and under Neil Gaiman, it started to get weird. If you remember, because Alan Moore left, and then Neil Gaiman started focusing on like the average people, and it was like progressive utopia, but it was like creepy. Like
all I can remember is young Marvel Man wanted to have sex with Marvel Man.
No, that's not what happened. What happened was young Marvel Man, he wakes up. So kid Marvel Man is the child. He grows up to be the supervillain. He basically becomes like the Satan figure. They find that there's a Marvel woman. They bring her out of this facility, and she's like a nightmare. Like she's like a this alluring, beautiful woman who's like she's like the liberal white. She's just pushing all these super liberal, progressive values on people. And then they take young Marvel Man, and he wakes up in this world, and he is a product of the 40s and 50s. And he sees homosexuality and like basically pedophilia is normalized, and he's horrified by this. And he doesn't have the words to explain to them. This is just not the way the world is supposed to. So he just has this general malaise, and he can't really explain it to Marvel Man, his hero. So Miss Marvel goes, "Can't you see? He's a homosexual and he loves you." And then Captain Marvel is like, or Marvel Man is like, really? So he is sitting down talking to him, and the kid's finally trying to express himself in words that have words for pedophilia and utopia. He's come from a simpler life, from the 40s, and spent most of his time living within a computer simulation. And he starts explaining himself, and he's like, choking back tears. So Marvel Man kisses him, and that's what he wants. And he's horrified by it and punches Captain. And then the comic ends, and it was a cliffhanger for 40 years. So I was just like, did Miss Marvel set this up? Is she the new villain? Is she that misguided? And I'm like, what happened? And I wanted to know. And for 40 years, I never knew what happened in the next issue. And then Marvel buys the rights to it, starts republishing it. So I'm waiting for them to get to issue 25. They get to issue 26. And then all the Neil Gaiman stuff comes out, and we still don't have the ending for that freaking. And now we never will. Marvel's not going to publish Neil Gaiman, so thanks a lot, Neil Gaiman. But Neil Gaiman, it was just a deconstruction of a superhero world, and then what would happen with all this technology, And then Neil Gaiman made it a real creepy, progressive utopia, which was a nightmare. Like literally, teachers are having sex with students to teach them. And I'm talking like young students to teach them about human sexuality. Miracle Man's daughter flies into space to experience sex with space whales. It's really creepy, And I thought it was like leading towards an indictment of this. What happens, when all limits are erased, people become degenerates. But we never will have the ending. And knowing that it's Neil Gaiman, because I didn't know Neil Gaiman at that point. This was pre-standard. So knowing Neil Gaiman, probably, that's the greatest ending in the world. Everybody's gay. But I thought it was going to be like Marvel Man, like, checks everything. And, this was a horrible mistake. That's what I was rooting for. But we'll never know.
No, you know what was a horrible mistake? Joe Quesada, Marvel paying a small fortune for the rights of Marvel Man, and now they can't do anything with it.
Right.
That you can't even make money on reprints, because the original Mick Anglo stuff was awful.
Sorry for the tangent against Mexico and Latin America because of all the narco stands. Yep. I'm rooting for the Mexican people. I love the Mexican people. To be honest, I never met an individual Mexican who was a bad person. Like, I actually don't hang out with cartels and stuff like that. But like, I spent some time in Mexico. They were the nicest people. I'm rooting for Mexico. They got problems, and I just, I don't know. Like, do we invade and overthrow their government? Do we encourage them? I don't know. I'm not that smart. Neil Gaiman, weird? No way. The irony of the boys is gun Superman is 4-point rock in 2026. Yeah, say what you want about Superman, flaws and everything. I would still rather watch that than the boys. Marvel Miracle Boys issue number 9 was a warning for graphic childbirth. It was crazy for that. Yeah, it had like literal graphic drawings of childbirth. I remember I was like, ooh. The Gaiman run on Marvel Man was awful. I still like Gaiman. Met him, nice guy. Well, you weren't here for the beginning where I talked about Gaiman tonight. Miracle Man brought about the Biden administration. As for labor in UK, this is bad stories on their own way. The century. Britain hasn't had a good government since World War II. Why do you think New Zealand? How was New Zealand? Didn't they lock up everybody for COVID? Put them in concentration camps?
I think that was Australia.
I think Zealand did it too. I could be wrong. I know in Australia put people in concentration camps because some people got a cold. That 99% of the people survived. Unless you were, I don't know. I'd get in trouble talking about that, right? So anyway, do you have any more pictures? Does anybody have any pictures from Marvel or DC? It's 10:30. I got to go to bed. I got to go to work tomorrow.
Well, we're looking for that. You're gonna what are we gonna do for next week?
Oh yeah, what do you guys want to do for next week?
Do you want to get to the clobbering time things like the best magnetic superheroes, or best?
Yeah, every week I say I'd like to get back to like the original purpose of superheroes fighting, but we did them all. Who else is left? We did Viltrumites versus Kryptonians. I don't even consider the Homelander in this. The reason why I don't consider the Homelander because he never had a. Who was his biggest challenge? You know what I mean? When you're the top dog, you never really have to struggle. Like, who did he struggle to fight in that show? He was. That's why I think Superman has fought people more powerful than him and prevailed. I think Superman would just clobber the Homelander. He shoots a laser beam at him, Superman fires a laser beam back. He's like, now what do I do?
Yeah.
I don't know either. How about buying the entirety of Mexico? It's not a solution of providing. I thought about too, just like making Mexico, I don't know, 1-2 states. But how would that work? And do the people want it? I don't want to just be an occupying force. I get the feeling that the Mexicans are very proud of their country and don't want to be part of the United States. So, but I like Mexico. I really do like it. Me and my buddy, we spent the summer just like living in a car, driving around Mexico. Granted, it was the Baja California, so I'm sure it was different than Mexico, but we spent weeks doing it. That was a lot of fun. I kind of miss that. Have you ever been to Juarez?
Me, no. I don't. You'd think I'd have gone to Mexico, but no. I've gone to Central and South America. I've always somehow avoided Mexico.
This is a good one. Clobbering Time's best religion-based character in comics. Yes, that includes Son of Satan.
That might work, but yeah, that might work. Yeah.
How about Marvel's Devils versus DC's Devils?
Yeah, but DC's got Lucifer. Doesn't that kind of trump everybody? Marvel doesn't have a Lucifer.
Yeah, but how? What has Lucifer done? He got his wings cut off, and he lost to Sandman.
According to the Bible, he's supposedly as powerful as second powerful to his creator. So
yeah, we got to go by the comics, not the Bible.
I never really read Lucifer. I never even watched the TV show. You would probably know more about that than me.
I never watched the TV show. But they got what? Necron is that a DC devil?
No, he's an other dimensional version of death or something. He's
Because I think we did DC Space Guys versus Marvel Space Guys, just like not in a fight, but like I don't know, Marvel's Underworld versus DC's Underworld. I don't know. How do we make that work?
How about occult detectives? Have you done that?
We did spellcasters, like Doctor Strange versus Doctor Fate. Has anyone thought of buying all Mexico? What sort of deal the Mexicans have to keep their culture? I don't know. DC, yeah, I did like the DC series. I didn't get the new 52 one. The show is funny but garbage. I never watched the show. It's not the comic. Marvelous Mephisto is the devil. He's great. Lucifer has been hunting teenagers in Ohio for the past years, a shadow of his former self. Really? Is that like an urban legend? Or is that something that you just made up? I don't know. I can't think of one. I can't think. Anybody in the chat have a good idea for a topic?
How about best martial artists? Undersea Heroes. Have you guys done Undersea Heroes?
Yeah, we had Aquaman versus Namor. Yeah. That's what I said. We did all of the ones that make sense. I mean, you could say like the Thing versus Fire Hair. You know what I mean? Like, I think we did all the logical ones.
How about Sergeant Rock versus wartime Nick Fury?
Yeah. Is there enough to talk about there?
No, probably not.
Because I like getting into the weeds and do it. Like, best comic book black exploitation. How about the best black superhero?
Okay.
What do you guys think about that? We'll talk about the best black superhero. Yeah, I kind of like that idea. We could talk a lot about history of black characters that the people don't know about.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So next week we'll bless you, Tony. So next week we'll talk about best. And I don't want to say African American because I really do hate that term because that just assumes that every black person is American. I took a public speaking class over summer in my national community college. There was 12 people in the class. Every day we had to give speeches. And there was a kid in my class, something Maurice Dubois, and he ends up working local news, and the teacher was this liberal white woman, and she's like, when you talk to your audience, it's important that you address the black. Like, for instance, you're an African American. No, I'm not. Obviously a black kid. The teacher's like, just look at you, but you're African American. No, I'm not. And it was great because he was letting it squirm. He wouldn't explain anything. And he goes, I'm a French citizen. And he goes, my father fought to become a French citizen. He joined I forget what he said, not the Legion, French Foreign Legion, but he became a military. He goes, he's very proud of being French. He goes, and you Americans, you think you own everything. You think you own every black person? He goes, are you talking about my nationality or are you talking about my race? Because my race is not African American. People from Nigeria, people from France are not African American. Because I'm a Frenchman, but I'm a black person. Because I prefer that. And it was totally funny because the teacher was talking about you got to address people by their proper names and terms. He totally, he just eviscerated them. It was great. And ever since then, like at that point, I was a liberal college kid. So I was like, yeah, you're right. And then he just showed me that was a stupid term.
Another stupid term is Native American. That's what I'm thinking. I am a Native American. I was born
here. Yeah. When I applied for student loans, I put Native American. In University of New Mexico, and the Indian woman, the American Indian woman behind the counter said, "You're not Native American. What tribe?" I said, "How could I was born here." I said, "What do you mean by Native American?" I said, "I can look up the dictionary and find the word Native." I said, "So you're telling me I can't get money because of my race? There's a word for that." And I just argued with her so much they just left me alone. Sorry, I can't turn up off these days. John, work's a bit crazy this year. Yeah, me too. I'm like chiseling out time to make streams. I literally I used to stream like no joke 7 or 8 times a week. Now I'm only doing it like 3 times a week. The crazy part of the story is finding someone who's proud to be French. I think he was just proud to argue with the teacher, but he was a cool guy. And I'll never forget too. This was the days when they had those pull-out. You remember those? I forget what they were called, but you had a radio in your car. You'd pull it out, carry it with you, so nobody would steal your radio. So I had one of those, and I took one out, and I put it on the roof of my car to get all my books out. And I went to class. So it's the last day of class, and Maurice is inviting me to his house to a barbecue. And all of a sudden I realized the entire class, I left the radio on top of my car. And I just ran away in the middle of a sentence. Never got his address, never made it to the barbecue. He must think I'm a crazy person. But I just ran away in the middle of an invitation. It was still there, and then I went back to look for him. So that was the end of my friendship with Maurice. I just ran away in the middle of a sentence. Maurice, if you happen to be watching this, I wanted to go to the barbecue. I enjoyed it. He was a cool guy. And there was a Hasidic Jewish guy in the class too. And every speech was about how you're Jewish, you should be proud to be Jewish. You're not Jewish, and don't you wish you were Jewish? We just used to roll our eyes like, yeah. But you got anything else to talk about? I was thinking of a good clobbering time. Like fan casting, you know, like who play other superheroes. If we were to make a movie, but we'll save that one. Yep, yeah, we'll save that one. Oh, by the way, has anybody watched the show Chaos on Netflix? Tony, have you seen that show?
No.
No, it's a reimagination of the Greek gods. So it's what if the Greek gods are still worshipped right now? Mm-hmm. My biggest pet peeve with the show is, you know, Greek mythology already happened, so there shouldn't be a Cassandra. There shouldn't be like the main story is Orpheus lost his wife, and he's going to Denver. That story happened 5,000 years ago. So why is it being told in the modern times? Like if Greek mythology existed now, then it also existed then, and those stories they predate Jesus. So come up with new stories. That's my pet peeve. The second pet peeve is there's not one attractive person in the show. All the women are ugly, homely. The one woman who's kind of good looking, Eurydice, Orpheus's wife. Her personality destroys any attractiveness that she may have, to the point like when I first saw her, I was like, oh, she's kind of cute. Now, like I'm repulsed by her because she's such a thoroughly unpleasant person. You know, the guy who plays Daedalus has deformed arms. So how's this guy inventing anything? He can't even hold a pencil. You know, it's just diversity check. Of course, Prometheus. Did you know Prometheus was gay? And he was in a gay relationship with Charon, the
sure.
Waves. Yeah. And did you know that? I can't even think of one of the main characters. Just find you transgender for no reason whatsoever. And you know that the not the Norn face, the three faces. Did you know that a transgender man can be one of the three faces? Because as long as he thinks he's okay. It's just so. But now I gotta watch. There's only you got canceled, so I'm like, all right, I gotta watch the other 2 episodes. But it's just so bad. But the most egregious thing is not one pleasant looking actor or actress. You know, everybody's ugly.
Well, as we all know, John, Helen of Troy was black. So, right. I mean, all sorts of wonderful things happen in, you know, Greek history that we don't know. You know?
Yeah, my guess is this is Nolan actively trying to get an Oscar.
Or maybe he just drank the Kool-Aid.
I think
his brother's extremely progressive. Extremely progressive.
His what?
His brother.
Who's his brother?
He's the showrunner of some. Just look him up. Christopher Nolan's brother. He does. Yeah, he's a. I wanted to ask you, John. Did you hear Marvel fired what's his face, the head guy, and they're replacing him with one of the people that was in charge of the MCU. What do you think? How long do you think Marvel's going to last before they finally just close up shop? What do you think?
So I guess it's the countdown has officially begun until it becomes an IP farm.
Yep.
Yeah, I just saw this. They actually found fragments of the Iliad and the Egyptian mummy. I've been watching a YouTube channel that talks a lot about it, like lost discoveries. That's an oxymoron, but things that we thought were lost. They talk about how a lot of mummies are wrapped in scrolls, and every time they find mummies, they do X-rays on it. This could, something. I think that's really cool. I'm a huge Nolan fan. The Helen casting is so wrong. That's nobody. Does he have an Oscar? Okay, I thought he never had an Oscar. I don't.
Yeah, he won a bunch for Oppenheimer.
Oh, I don't know. There goes my only explanation. And I thought this was this Oscar bait. So then my backup plan has to kick in. My backup plan was this is just actively part of Let's Destroy Western Civilization. If we could get the average person to remember one of the foundational texts of Western civilization wrong, then it's like part of the 100-year plan to destroy individual freedom and individual rights, individual liberty. Yeah, right in Sharpie across the mummy's forehead it says Achilles is in the trans. Hey Arkham, how you doing? Arkham, he's not taking over Marvel. Was that a rumor?
Gosh, it'd be nice. Maybe he could do something with
it. At least he loves comic books. I mean, say what you like about the guy. I know right now he's the cool guy to hate, but at least he likes comic books. And he knows how to tell a story. I mean, I did like the Invincible comic. I didn't even watch the second season of the cartoon. Oh, just wishful. All right, I thought that was one of the rumors that I missed. But I got to go to bed. I got to go to bed. So next week we'll talk about black superheroes. I think there's a lot of characters that people don't really know about. I think it'll be a fun talk. And then maybe 2 weeks we'll talk about like fan casting. Who would you want to play this? Who would you want to play that? All right. So thanks a lot, everybody. Remember, Heroic Tales Christmas Special is launching. I'll say real soon. My criteria have been met. We're building the campaign page now. I'll live way closer to work, so I'll be able to come back. Cool. Everybody, this is an open invite show. The more people, the merrier. And we will say goodbye, kids. Goodbye, kids.